One time when Slapped Ham was 6 years old, he went with his mom to a gas station. She brought him inside and said that he could get some candy. Slapped Ham walked down a lot of aisles, but then he saw his mom's car driving away. He ran out of the gas station without paying, and his mom came out behind him saying that that was not the car. Just then, their car started moving. There was a creep in their car, and his mom beat him with a broom in her purse. If Slapped Ham would have stayed in the gas station, their car and all their belongings would have been stolen. Biting your fingernails is pretty common, but when Doopy gets nervous, she bites down on her actual fingers. One time during a math test, Doopy bit down so hard that blood started pouring out of her finger. Her teacher thought something serious had happened and sent her straight to the nurse's office. Doopy was pretty embarrassed when she told the nurse that her injury, well, it was self-inflicted. During her first year of college, Gooby was walking to one of the buildings on campus to get to her next class. Next to the classroom, there are flower beds and trees for people to sit and chill out under. While she was walking, she beheld two adorable little doves sitting under the shade of a large tree. She was just looking at them, thinking it was so cute that they were just sitting down together, when suddenly, out of nowhere, this large hawk just swooped down and grabbed one violently by the neck and just like whipped off its head and just started to like eat the insides of it. There's blood everywhere. Oh my god, so amazing. Yeah, rip it apart. Yeah. Gooby was in shock and felt so sad for the rest of the day. Life can be really cruel sometimes.
When Dolan was 13 and his brother was 6 or 7, he watched a lot of the Nightmare on Elm Street films. One of the Freddy Krueger's favorite words was, of course, horror. One day, Dolan was in his room watching one of the movies, and his little brother walked in and watched some of it with him. Thankfully, the ending was pretty tame. Once the movie ended, he turned to Dolan and asked,
"What's a whore?"
Not really sure if a 6-year-old could comprehend the topic, Dolan hastily said, "It's a type of British cookie." He went on asking questions, and Dolan kept supplying answers, finally convincing him that a whore was, in fact, a cookie. He thought he had dodged a bullet until one day, as they were walking into Walmart, Dolan's little brother asked their mom very casually,
"Can we get some whores?"
Gergak was 11. His best friend bet him $35 that he couldn't fit his entire fist in his mouth. And well, you know Gergak, he did it, but he got his hand stuck in his mouth, and he had to go to the hospital to get it out. Gergak got his $35, but his friend didn't actually have the money to give, so his mom paid the bet for him. He was grounded for 5 weeks and was no longer allowed to come to Gergak's house, which was probably for the best.
Luckily, I've never had a boss ask me to do anything too crazy, aside from one time. I remember Black Friday was coming up, and my boss at the store I worked at walked up to me and asked me if I was interested in some extra hours. I told him sure, why not? But then he said he wanted me to work for 20 hours straight on the day before Black Friday, and then into the day itself. And then, after the 20-hour shift was over, I would have 4.5 hours before I would have to come back and work a 16-hour shift. I just laughed and said, "Oh, Andy, you're such a joker." But he was not joking. I said no.
One time when Gergak was playing on the DS with his 5-year-old cousin, his game started glitching out. For no particular reason, Gergak told him his DS had the Gooey Block virus on that game. And his cousin actually believed that his DS had this dangerous virus up until he was 7. When he found out it was fake, he got his revenge. He installed a virus on Gergak's computer and left a note saying, "Now you have the Gooey Block."
When Doopy was 11, she was questioning her sexuality, so she identified as bisexual and stuck with that. She hadn't come out to anybody yet, but she told some friends that she trusted. That led to her regularly saying, "I love you," to her female friends. When the girls from other grades heard that, they started yelling homophobic slurs at Doopy and her friends. Because of that, Doopy sort of regrets telling them so early. But this way at least they know Doopy will be supportive if they decide to come out to her as well.
When he was little, Gergak liked to make out with his stuffed animals. One day, his dad caught him and was disgusted. He was so disgusted that he made Gergak make out with every single stuffed animal that he had for 30 minutes as punishment. Gergak didn't finish his punishment until 6 hours later.
MKLM worked for a boring insurance company when his boss came up to him one day. He told MKLM something surprisingly interesting. It was something that probably wasn't too interesting to the average person, but in a boring insurance office, it was kind of cool. His boss told him he just wanted him to sing country music to his plants and fish so they would grow better and stay healthy. And you know what? MKLM got some good bonuses for it.
One time, Kyle got caught putting signs on the doors of classrooms saying that the principal wanted teachers to take all their classes to the main hall. He even copied the principal's signature from a letter he had, and he got caught when a snitch told the teacher what had happened. His punishment was isolation, which is when you sit in a little cubicle doing math and English exercises all day. The only time you get up is when they let you go to the toilet twice a day. He was in isolation for 3 days.
Once I was talking with my mom and sister in Walmart and I was super tired, but I was explaining why which clothes detergents we got mattered, and one thing I said was, "Because I smell your clothes all of the time," instead of saying, "Because I smell our clothes all of the time," like when I'm folding or just wearing my clothes by. Then there was a 40-something-year-old black man that was walking by and overheard and told me,
"That's just wrong."
The annoying thing Dolan ever experienced is when he worked in a restaurant. Some customers would pay for their meal, but they would hold their bank card, or worse, cash in their mouth, and proceed to hand it to him. One time he was serving a couple at a fast food restaurant when the girl reached into her tits, no bra included, and pulls out her credit card. The card was wet when Dolan went to wipe it. He told him to wait for a moment while he ran out the back and basically rubbed all of his skin off in the sink.
In 6th grade, Slapped Ham heard the dumbest excuse ever. Slapped Ham had just stayed up all night finishing his Spanish project. He got to class on Monday morning and saw his friend, aka the biggest procrastinator ever. This friend hadn't finished the project, but instead of just saying something believable like his computer died, he told the entire class that lightning hit at his house and burnt it down. While escaping the flames, Slapped Ham's friend apparently tripped and broke his finger, which meant he couldn't type up his Spanish project. He held up his slightly bent finger for proof. Slapped Ham burst out laughing at the horrible excuse, but for some reason, his teacher believed it. She kept shaking her head saying, "That's so sad!" She told Slapped Ham's lying friend not to worry about it and just finish the project whenever he could. And she didn't ask for any proof. Slapped Ham still hates this teacher to this day.
When Andy was in high school, her dad was insanely strict. He was a huge gun fanatic who got super angry whenever he stopped taking his blood pressure medication. One day, Andy got into a huge argument with him about her grades. Her dad said he was so sick of her attitude and demanded she hand over all her electronics, which included her laptop, iPad, and DS. The DS was his least favorite of the bunch, so he took it and said,
"If you didn't play this thing, you wouldn't be such immature white trash."
Andy then watched as he took her DS outside and shot 4 bullets in it, one for each member of the family that she had supposedly disappointed. Well, that's not an overaction or anything. So my mom's the type of person who thinks that she is a cool mom, and she is not. And when I was in 6th grade, my boyfriend was over and playing Guitar Hero. He was doing a really amazing job because for some reason that's all he seems to do. And my mom embarrassed me by yelling, "Whoa, look at you! Give me some dap!" and proceeded to high-five him. I don't know what she was trying to say. I don't know what she meant, but I was extremely embarrassed and he just laughed at me.
So one day Doopy came home from school. When her mom asked if she had been near anywhere strange smelling, Doopy said she wasn't. Her mom said if she went around the school smelling everybody, she would give her $60. Even if she declined, her mom still would have made her do it. The next day at school, Doopy had to sniff everybody on all 3 floors. Teachers, students, including her crush, and even the vice principals and principal. She eventually found the scent, and it turned out to be her best friend who was dared by someone to get a bottle of cologne and perfume, mix them together in a bottle, and wear it for a week. Now, to this day, Doopy asked them if they're going to wear any spray before she makes any physical contact with them.
When Hellbent was around 4 or 5 years old, he ate ranch dressing. Now get this. On top of blueberry pancakes. When he originally did this, he had confused the salad dressing for syrup or butter, and for some reason, he liked it. Even weirder is that his family allowed him to eat it that way. Then again, he was a super picky eater at the time, so I suppose it was for the best.
Every school has a list of banned items that can't be brought onto school grounds. Sweet Commando School is just oddly specific. Most schools are content to just list weapons as banned items and leave it at that. But Sweet Commando was baffled that his junior high school guidelines actually listed rocket launchers under firearms that could not be brought on school grounds. He could sort of understand the logic behind it, but where are people going to get a rocket launcher, and why?
One day, Salty Squid was walking home from school. About halfway home, there was an agility training course. He noticed 2 guys there with their dogs, and all of a sudden, one dog started humping the other dog. The 2 guys managed to separate them, but then came the blame game. After yelling at each other for a while, they started fighting. As they were trading punches, they didn't realize that the dogs were at it again.
The most desperate thing Spincis ever did to impress someone was going down a very steep hill on a bike. She liked a boy named Tulip, who lived in her neighborhood and hung out with him from time to time. They lived in a neighborhood that had a really steep hill. One day, they were playing outside when Spincis asked, "Do you want to see me go down the hill on a bike?" Tulip wanted to see it, so she went to her house, grabbed her bike, and walked back to him. She got on the bike and sped down the hill. Well, she went way faster than expected and screamed, "Ah, damn it, damn it, damn it, damn it, damn it." Spincis ended up losing control of the bike and ran right into a car. She flew onto the hood and the alarm went off. The owner of the car came out of her house and Spincis and Tulip explained what happened. The woman forgave them, and Spincis started dating Tulip because he thought he was really brave of her to do what she did. They still laugh about it to this day.
When Dolan was folding laundry with his family, he saw his mom's dress and decided it would be fun to try it on. So, while no one was looking, Dolan went to the bathroom and put it on. He looked at himself in a full-length mirror and actually thought he looked pretty good, so he started to model for a bit. But then his siblings opened the door and saw him in a weird pose, so they all started to laugh and cackle. Embarrassed, Dolan slammed the door shut, took off the dress, and tried to forget it. But even 7 years later, nobody else forgot it. Whenever it comes up, Dolan still gets embarrassed, but he still does think he makes a damn good model.
A few years back, Pandora and her boyfriend left the Halloween store with some decorations for a party she was throwing. Her boyfriend bought a really creepy Bloody Grim Reaper mask and a toy that looked like a realistic, blood-covered machete. They decided to go to McDonald's before catching the light rail home. While eating, a man came into the restaurant with a gun and yelled for everyone to get down, and for the cashier and the managers to empty the registers and safe. Just when she was about to tell her boyfriend that they should leave, she saw him calmly putting his new mask on and then grabbing the fake machete. He stood up and walked over to the robber, pointing the toy right at him. Pandora's boyfriend said that he was going to rob the place first and didn't like it when punks invaded his territory and threatened to hack the robber up because of it. At first, Pandora thought the robber was going to shoot him, but instead put his hands up and started to cry. The gun ended up being a plastic airsoft toy. Her boyfriend started laughing and said that his machete was a toy too. And then a bunch of other people tackled the robber and called the cops. Pandora yelled at her boyfriend for doing something so dumb.
When Pandora was sick, she thought the entire planet Earth was just the things around her neighborhood. One time, she saw a house that she'd never seen before and thought,
"That must be that China place my parents are always talking about."
She thought the big fence around it was the Great Wall of China and that their swimming pool was the ocean. The owner of this house was overweight, so Pandora spent the next couple of years believing Chinese people were all fat men.
One time, Honeybits was studying in the library when a guy came up to her with a big, creepy smile. She didn't know about it then, but he was about to unleash a cringe explosion that she would never forget. He looked her right in the eyes and he said, "Girl, I'm gonna treat you like my homework and do you all night long. When he didn't get a response, he dug deep and he said, I'm gonna treat you like my pinky toe and bang you against every piece of furniture in my house. Honeybits wasn't very impressed and politely told him to take his garbage lines elsewhere.
One day, Shima's school was locked down. No one knew what was going on, but a voice came over to the intercom telling students to follow the emergency procedure. The teacher locked the door, turned off the lights, and told everyone to get under their desks. Shima huddled between two friends who were freaking out. Eventually, Shima's teacher looked online to find out what was happening. It turned out a local woman had broken up with her crazy boyfriend. He snapped and killed her. Then he vowed to kill her two kids, who happened to go to the same school as Shima. Thankfully, the guy was arrested before he could hurt anyone else. But for Shima, it was a terrifying situation to be in.
When Honeybits was 10, her grandpa gave her a glass baby doll. She didn't want to be rude, so she accepted the gift. When Honeybits got home, she put the doll on the floor in her closet, but when she went to sleep, she had this dream where the doll was covered in blood and holding a knife. When she woke up, the doll was missing, but when she went to her parents' bedroom, the doll was next to the bed. So Honeybits took the doll and locked it in the closet. Then she called her friend, who came over and looked at the doll. She told Honeybits to lock her door at night and then ran out of the door with the doll. The next day, she gave the doll back and told Honeybits that everything will be fine, and ever since then her friend refused to tell her what had happened when she looked at the doll.
Moji switched the lens on the right side of his glasses with an extra magnified one, then wrote on his arm with an invisible ink pen. He then brought said pen and a small light into the exam and kept it shining on his arm. In case the teacher went around the room, Emoji got his mate to ask a question so he could turn off the light and look innocent. He placed his arm on top of his test so it would look like he was covering his answers, but really, he was just looking at the answers on his arm.
When Tulip was 8 years old, his parents used to leave him and his little sister with their older cousin Austin. Austin was very untrustworthy and was always abandoning his babysitting duties to smoke, steal, and hang out with his friends. One night, after Austin waved goodbye to Tulip's parents, he gave Tulip and his sister some chicken nuggets, then ran off to cause trouble with his friends. On this particular night, he was slightly more responsible than normal and actually arranged a replacement babysitter. Unfortunately, the replacement was his friend's 9-year-old sister, who was barely older than Tulip. When Tulip's parents came home, they found their children sitting at the table playing Monopoly with the 9-year-old stranger. Austin was banned from ever babysitting again.
This one time, Gergak was at a church service, and he zoned out while the speaker was talking. The speaker then asked the group a rhetorical question. Gergak was still spaced out when he heard the question, and he accidentally yelled, "No!" His voice echoed through the church. He then immediately remembered where he was, and he looked around to see the entire congregation staring at him.
When Pringle's sister was still in diapers, he could tell when she had dropped a big stink bomb. She'd start grunting and sound like a 90s modem connecting to the internet, and her face would turn super red. When she was finally done, she'd get this intense look of relief on her face and grin like she knew whoever would have to change her would have to deal with that horrific smell.
When Slapped Ham was in 2nd grade, he was using the school's female restroom. See, he had a habit of stripping down and squatting on the toilet when he pooped. Then a few girls came in. You know how some little kids like to peek under the gaps between the stalls? Well, this girl 2 stalls to the right of his peeked down and saw all of his clothes on the floor, and then the girl said, "Who left these here?" Ham was shocked and terrified, so he just sat there without saying a word. Scared, not knowing what to do, the girls finished and ran to the teacher, and they told her everything. He got into a lot of trouble and was super embarrassed.
When Andy was in 9th grade, she got 2 detentions in one day. Her insane theology teacher was sitting at her desk behind Andy and her friend, who were going over a study guide. Andy's friend had a different answer for a question, so she changed it to match. 2 seconds later, the crazy teacher yanked both of their papers away from them and said, "That's not how we do things here." Grabbed Andy by her arm, took her to the Dean of Discipline's office. The teacher said, "I caught in school cheating off another classmate's assignment." Andy was crying. She hated getting into trouble.
It was a study guide and I wasn't cheating. It wasn't even an assignment. I didn't do anything wrong.
The The dean asked, "If you didn't do anything wrong, then why are you crying?" She could no longer speak through the tears, and the teacher's perfume was giving her asthma. Andy served her lunch detention, mopping the gym instead of eating. In the next class, Andy was sneakily taking nibbles from a granola bar. The teacher spotted Andy eating and pulled her up in front of the entire class to interrogate her. She tried to explain the situation, but the unsympathetic health teacher sent her to the dean of discipline again. Andy was all cried out, but had to stand there. She was yelled at for getting another detention. How dare she eat a fucking granola bar? Goddamn monster child. If you don't set her straight now, a year from now she'll be running wild, dodging balls.
Shortly before his graduation ceremony in 1980, Ghost Toast had a separate ceremony in the auditorium for students who had won scholarships and school awards. This included speeches from various teachers. Ghost Toast's music teacher was among them. A classical musician, he was a pretty straight-laced guy. He started his speech, and he showed them all an electric guitar he had with him. He started playing, just like he usually did, classically. Then he suddenly said, "But you all more likely expected this." He then proceeded to shred, like the spirit of Eddie Van Halen had just possessed him. Everybody in that auditorium gave him a round of applause.
Nixium was in high school history class. He sat behind his two friends who were a couple. One day their teacher came in looking much nicer than usual. All the students complimented her on her hair and makeup, but Nixium's friend said,
"All she needs now is a halter top and a miniskirt."
The whole room went silent, and everyone glared at him. While trying not to laugh, Nixium snorted and shot a huge snot rocket right in his friend's girlfriend's face. Needless to say, nobody was looking at the teacher's makeup after that.
When Gergak was 13, he went to a Halloween party with his dad. After the party, his dad went to the bathroom. While Gergak's dad was at the urinal, a big, drunk, homeless man walked in and stood next to the urinals. He said to Gergak's dad, "Hey, nice penis." At that point, Gergak walked in wearing his zombie costume. The man turned around and screamed. He pulled out a knife and stabbed Gergak in the gut. The cops came, and after stabbing one of them, the other cop shot him in the arm. The man got arrested, and Gergak had to go to the hospital to get stitches. Oh, some awfully nice cops to deploy nonviolent force after a man stabs a child and stabs another police officer. This is very believable.
When he was 10, Sid went to Chuck E. Cheese for a friend's birthday party. While he was there, he went to the bathroom to wash his hands when a man went up to him. The man asked Sid how he'd broken his arm. He answered,
"I fell off the swings at recess."
Then the man said, "Try sticking your cast down my pants. It'll feel better." Sid screamed.
Heck no!
He ran out of the bathroom, looking around for someone to tell. He finally found a manager and told him what had happened. The creepy man was arrested a week later for being a pedophile.
When Zaragamba, my brother, was 8 years old, our grandfather took him to McDonald's for a Happy Meal. It was a nice afternoon, everyone was in a happy, cheerful mood. They were waiting in line to make their order when our grandfather looked down at my brother without any expression on his face and whispered, "Don't die." Then continued to order their food at the counter. My brother stood there and awkwardly smiled back, but in his head he was thinking, what the fuck was that about? Don't die? I'll try fucking not to.
Emoji no longer drinks, but when he was younger, he used to get very messed up. One night, while out with his friends, the group's designated driver bailed. Emoji confidently announced that he'd drive everyone the 20 miles home. Emoji was so drunk he had to squint to even see. He remembers blurry streetlights, narrowly missing a mailbox, and having to pull over to puke on the side of the road. Somehow, he got everyone home without getting into an accident or being pulled over. But looking back, it's one of the most irresponsible things he's ever done. Pringle's 5-year-old brother started crying loud enough to wake his whole family. Pringle and his father ran to his room, and after managing to calm him down, he asked what happened. Pringle's brother told him, "The big man said he would take me." His father asked who the big man was, and the child said the big man rushed downstairs before they entered the room. Pringle and his family hid in a safe room while they waited for police to arrive and search the property. They found the back door wide open and footsteps heading into the woods. even though they had locked all the doors that night.
Back in 2008, the year Nixium married Nikki, his truck ran out of gas at a red light. To make matters worse, it was on an incline. He tried to push his stalled truck out the way, but he couldn't. Instead of helping Nixium push his truck to the side, the angry drivers behind him just honked their horns. Right then, when Nixium was ready to give up and call someone, a homeless man approached him. He'd gotten up from his bench and helped Nixium push his truck into a nearby parking lot. Nixium was actually heartbroken that he didn't have a dime to pay him, because at the time he was broke and hoped to make it home from work. Nixium wishes that he could find him again and give him $100 for his kindness.
When Andy Mations was 21, she went on a vacation to Hawaii with her boyfriend Adam. They were having fun, but as they walked on the beach, they saw a really old man. He stared at Andy, but Adam noticed it first and told her. She glanced at him and then got really creeped out. Andy told Adam that she had to go, so she went inside their hotel to use the bathroom. After finishing, she walked out and she saw the old man staring at her from the hallway. Now she was really freaked out. He just stared at her with a blank expression, not saying anything. She went to Adam, but didn't see the old man for the rest of the night. They went into their hotel room and, while they were having sex, the old man suddenly opened the door and stared at Andy. He pointed at her and said, "I want the girl. I want the girl." At that point, Andy screamed. Adam pushed him out, slammed the door, and called hotel security. Apparently, the old man was a rapist. He was then taken to jail.